Well, hello again from here inside St Mary's Stadium on a day when events on the south coast perhaps were informative as to what happened last week when Newcastle were beaten 4-1 by Bournemouth. Yet not far from here today, just along the coast, Bournemouth put 5 past Nottingham Forest, so perhaps that wasn't the worst result for Newcastle after all last week. I'm joking, of course, but does give you an idea as to the quality of opposition they faced 7 days ago. It wasn't the same here today, and if you want a remedy, if you want to find a response to a defeat like that was pretty bruising, that was a sore one for Newcastle last weekend, well, they couldn't have asked for better opponents than Southampton, really. I thought they were really limited, but nonetheless, even though you've still got to do your own job, and Newcastle had the players to do that, and when you've got on a team sheet Sandro Tonali and Alexander Isak, I think you're going to win more matches than you lose. And I thought those two were absolutely brilliant today. We'll get to the merit stars. I've wrestled as to which one of them should have taken the podium. I think there only were 2 contenders for slots 1 and slot 2. We'll get to that later on. There are a few other contenders to complete it. Jacob Murphy was in there, Bruno Guimaraes. There's a few who had very good games. But on the whole, I thought Newcastle, it was job done. Listen, there had to be a response to last week. And inside the first 5 minutes, we saw that response absolutely from the off. I put a tweet out saying a week ago we knew after 5 minutes Newcastle were probably going to get beat, given how they'd started against Bournemouth without that intensity, without that urgency, with that cloudy, foggy thinking in terms of the decision making, and whatever played out there, played out during the rest of the game. After 5 minutes here, I thought I'll put it out there, I'll tell the world Newcastle are going to win this game. You can tell after 5 minutes. Yeah, and Southampton went and scored on 10 minutes. Cue the inevitable replies. I don't mind that, that's okay. But even still, I think we saw enough inside that opening to know that Newcastle had the better players. They had the better players on paper, on the team sheet beforehand, and so it proved on grass. And at no point did I really think Newcastle would come away with anything other than a victory today. And I thought they played well for the first hour, or in that little sticky spot when they did concede. Their creativity was good. They created lots and lots of chances. They got the ball quickly forward to Alexander Isak in the right areas and the right spaces. Southampton's defence were absolutely terrified of him. You talk about Storm Owen, when Alexander Isak blows into town, there is no defence to the damage he can cause. I thought he was magnificent, and that's what makes the difference. We've spoken about this in previous videos, but Newcastle do have good players. They've got world-class players. You can talk about Isak and Tonali in that bracket. Anthony Gordon, put him in there. Bruno Guimaraes, Sven Botman was on the bench here today. They've got good players all over the park. Put Jacob Murphy in there even, and when they start to click, they are going to create chances. They are going to score goals. Now, I wouldn't like to see Newcastle without Isak, and that's what I get when Eddie Howe talks to us about what they're doing at the moment and what they're achieving being fragile. And I spoke about this yesterday. It was my question to him in the press conference about those attacking options. Beneath Isak, Gordon and even Tonali getting involved there now, do they really have the players in depth to make that difference off the bench? And it just shows the value of Isak and why he makes such a difference on days like today when they did find themselves in that little bit of a hole. They just needed that moment of class to win the penalty, that moment of class to then go and score the second goal. Sandro Tonali to then take the game away from Southampton in the second half. But they've got those players and they did well and they got the job done. Listen, the last half hour wasn't great. They got a little bit ragged again. They had a let off, a scare when Southampton had the disallowed goal. But on the whole, Newcastle were good. They were so much more improved on last week in terms of that interest and that intensity, that winning the ball back, the quality, the decision making. Everything was a step up on what we saw. And yes, albeit against lesser opposition, but you can only play what's in front of you. And in terms of the question which we came into this game asking, would there be a response from Newcastle? I thought there was. I think they can be pretty pleased with what they served up today. Now let's have a look at how they achieved it. It's a brilliant front foot start, and whatever Eddie had said to them during the week, whatever they'd worked on, whatever he'd said to them in the dressing room, they came out firing that brilliant corner routine early on when really they should have probably done better with it. Joe Linton then has a shot. Tino Livramento gets in down the right, and you're looking at this, and again, I've already touched on the ill-advised tweet that I did put out there saying Newcastle was going to go on and be too good for Southampton, and then Southampton scored, and it's a really poor goal to concede. It's a poor, slow reaction from a dead ball, from a free kick. Dan Burn then gets dragged out wide with Kyle Walker-Peters. Now, is Dan Burn off balance? I commented at the time, I thought it was poor from Burn. I thought he was too weak. Maybe he was just knocked slightly off balance, and if anyone is going to go into bat and defend Dan Burn this season, it's going to be me. I still think, even though this video is going to be a lot about Alexander Isak and Sandro Tonali, the 2 scorers, I'd still have Dan Burn as Newcastle's player of the season. We digress. He was slightly poor for that goal, probably thinks he could have done better given what he's shown this season. I think he could have done. It's then played back, the cross comes in, and without Burn in the middle, the man who was headed, kicked, blocked, everything this season in Newcastle's goal mouth, he's not there, he's on his backside on the byline, the ball comes in, Fabian Schär come back in for Sven Botman today, his marking, it's not good. Tino Livramento gets across, doesn't do enough to put Bednarek off, and it's a header, it's an easy enough header in the bottom corner. That there is 1-0 to Southampton. Southampton then had a 5 or so minute spell where you thought Newcastle might just be on the ropes a little bit here. Has it knocked them? Has it taken the stuffing out of them? Adam Armstrong had his shot. Tall Paul, the centre forward, I can't remember his second name, he got into a good position. He was having a right good old bruising battle with Dan Burn, but then they recovered. It needed the response that Newcastle showed at Tottenham a few weeks ago when they went 1-0 down to that early goal, but then they got their good players on the ball. They got Bruno Guimaraes on the ball in between the lines. And I love Guimaraes in between their lines rather than operating in between Newcastle's lines in that number 6 position where, yes, he did some good, but I also thought defensively he was a little bit of a liability at times. I'm not saying it was necessarily his fault. I just don't think he has or had that skill set that Sandro Tonali does to put out those fires. But Bruno Guimaraes, 20, 30 yards further up the pitch, he's wonderful. I love him in there. I think it's the right call. It probably should have been made a long time ago. But nonetheless, he's playing in between those lines. He's getting the ball. He's wanting the ball. He's slipping the passes through. It's Bruno's pass that then puts Isak away for the moment that leads to the penalty. Good first touch by Alexander Isak. Joe Laribo gets across him. And on first viewing from the penalty box, from the press box into the penalty box, so this is the view. We're up there and I'm looking into it. And I say to the guy next to me, it's a penalty. It looked like a penalty. Referee Sam Barrett points to the corner. They're going to review this. Sure enough, a replay pops up on screen. And it's a blatant penalty. Quite why it then took a full 4 minutes to arrive at that decision, I don't know. It looked a penalty to the naked eye. It looked a penalty even more so when we saw the replay. It doesn't get the ball. It's clumsy. It's from behind. It's a penalty. The end of debate. I can't believe, a lot of guys were replying to me. I don't know who the commentator was on the feed you were watching who was saying he was adamant it wasn't. I mean, that's just, that's as nonsensical as the delay which followed. But Alexander Isak, well, he was nonplussed by the delay, and into that bottom corner, he slotted Newcastle level. But then the second goal, before that as well, they served notice. Bruno and Isak just bounced a little one off each other. It was tremendous. Isak has the shot, it's saved, it goes up in the air, and there was just a spell where those two in particular, Bruno and Isak in tandem, they were really hot. But hotter than Bruno when it comes to the supply lane, well, that's Jacob Murphy. Newcastle go ahead. Alex McCarthy clips one to the halfway line. Dan Burn jumps, it drops. Tonali is there. He's always there. Tonali is always there. The ball drops, loose ball. Tonali just pokes it off. He's poked with my foot there. He pokes it, if you could have seen. Tonali pokes it to Jacob Murphy. Now, I'm not going to do what Jacob Murphy then done, and he bursts. I could try bursting down the walkway here, couldn't I? Jacob Murphy bursts in between two Southampton bodies, a real injection, real intent, but then at the end of it, and this is what he is doing increasingly now, he is finding that end product. He absolutely fizzes a pass into Alexander Isak. Now, why does he play it with that much pace? Does it look, perhaps to people who don't know Murphy, don't know Isak, that he's overhit it, it's got too much on it? No, they know each other. Murphy knows he can deal with that. Isak wants that pace of pass so he can then manipulate the ball, and that's exactly what he does. And that first touch, wow, that one touch is worth 1,000 of what I or you could offer or ever dream to serve up. It was just tremendous. Takes the ball in his stride, gets away from the defenders. I've just nearly fallen down. Yeah, that's what Southampton's defenders were like. They felt like falling over. He gets away, in the finish, it's clinical, it's ruthless, it's Alexander Isak. It was so clinical, he should have worn a white coat. It really was tremendous. Brilliant goal for 2-1. And from that point, Newcastle they're in the ascendancy now. They're in control, really good game management. And there's more chances before half-time. Joe Linton has one where he hits the post. And you're thinking, going out a third now, yes, there's the relief for Newcastle that they've turned a 1-0 deficit into a 2-1 lead. But I thought they were good enough to go and add to that before half-time. Then again in the second half, they come out in the creative. These were the words Eddie Howe used downstairs. They're getting their good players into good positions. And the third goal duly arrives in the 51st minute, not before they've had more chances, just immediately after half-time. And it's Sandro Tonali, and we had a brilliant view of it in the press box. I don't know what it was like on television or from the away end, but it's right down in front of us. And we just saw his energy, that engine. Listen, if Alexander Isak is Newcastle's missile up the top there, well, this guy, he is the jet engine, which is just powering everything right now. He wins the ball, but he doesn't stop and admire it or wait for those further forward to go and do something with it on the back of his aggression and winning possession. He carries on the run. It's Isak to Gordon. Gordon, who I thought didn't have a great first half, or at least first 10, 15 minutes at times. Then he comes into it, and he is top class, we know that, and that assist showed it. The cushion passed through, and Tonali goes through, and the whole stadium just descends. There's a hush, there's a silence. What's he going to do? And he hasn't scored a goal in the Premier League, of course, and he just gives McCarthy the eyes, goes to play it right, puts the ball across his body as if he's a centre forward, as if he is Alexander Isak. That's 3-1, and then there's the celebrations away in the corner there. And I can tell why you guys love him. You know, slowly he is becoming my very favourite player. I just love watching him play. Eddie Howe said when he watched those videos, those DVDs, everything, all of the research and work they did before they signed Sandro Tonali, he said he fell in love watching him play, and you can see why. I've referred to him in copy as the gladiatorial midfielder. He's got that majesty, everything about him. It's just top class. Aeroplane going above there didn't sound too healthy. That didn't sound too good. I don't know if it's Newcastle making their getaway, but that didn't sound too good. But what did sound good were those celebrations with Tonali. That's 3-1, and from then, really, you think the game is not in doubt. At least it shouldn't be in doubt. There's a couple more chances after that, but Newcastle did get a little bit sloppy, a little bit complacent, and then they had that big let-off in the 85th minute where Fabian Schär, I don't quite know what he's doing when he ducks out of the header. Fernandes goes through. It's a really cool finish, to be fair to him. Out of all Southampton's players, I thought he was really good. Fernandes, who operated in that number 10 role. I don't think he'll be here next season. The guys local to the club are reporting them every week as well. They earmarked Fernandes to me before the game. We said, you know, he's a top half Premier League player. He goes through, scores the goal, and you're just thinking, from that position of strength and control and power, they've let themselves in for a really nervy last 5 minutes here. Now, they were let off by the VAR review and Fernandes being just offside. I don't quite have to go back and revisit the rules on this one, but I thought it might have been allowed on account of Shaw making that deliberate effort to flick the ball and missing it. But nonetheless, Newcastle survived. Would Southampton have then had enough to go and make it 3-3? Well, it would have been a pretty uncomfortable finish when it didn't have to be, but even still, I think Newcastle would have then tuned in again and seen out the game. Because that game management that was there from going behind, they showed that maturity to do what they had to do to put themselves in the winning position. And come the end, they really were good value for it. Never really in doubt from the word go for me. That's why I tweeted what I did. And come the end, I hadn't really veered from that. And it's an important win. You know, they should be coming here and winning. I said this in the preview video, but you've still got to come and do it. And doesn't it show the evolution of the team and how they have changed? They're finding all which ways to win here. That wasn't intensity as our identity right from the off. Yes, it was there early on, but then different spells, they took the sting out of the game as well. And I'd say on reflection here, this was a good day for Newcastle. This was a good victory, one with relatively minimum fuss, and sets them up nicely to reclaim that place in the top four, where I believe they should be. And onto the merit stars in ascending order. Well, one, that goes to Jacob Murphy. And I honestly believe now that Murphy's a player I perhaps haven't given enough credit to this season. It's been well documented, Newcastle's need for a right winger. I still would say that was the one area they could go out in the summer and immediately, with a big investment, make that very definite improvement on the quality of the first team and the goals and the assists and everything else. But Murphy's making a pretty good argument to say that he's the guy who can do that, at least for now, in the short term. And between now and the end of the season, keeping Jacob Murphy fit, given there is nothing else which lies beneath, and Almiron's probably going to be off, Jacob Barnes. I'm doing these hybrid players again. Jacob Barnes, if Harvey Barnes could play on the right there, would be a good player, but for now, it's Jacob Murphy. Harvey Barnes is slight injured, of course. That's what I was trying to get to. But Jacob Murphy, he's doing tremendously well, and that assist for that all-important second goal, you know, the second goal was just the one which calmed Newcastle down and instilled that belief that, yes, they are going to go on and win this game. It's brilliant, it's fantastic, it's incisive, it's got everything about it, pace, quality, decisiveness. I loved his part in that second goal. There were other moments as well where he's hit the post himself. He was just a real threat, and he's now getting, with confidence, comes composure, and we're seeing a real different version of Jacob Murphy right now. He is 1 star, and 2 star, this will reveal, of course, who gets the 3, given I've already said there's only 2 horses in the race. Well, the 2 goes to, it's Alexander Isak, which means I am going to have to talk about Sandro Tonali shortly. But Alexander Isak, 2 stars, and this was a toss-up. Isak made the difference today, because without Isak, do Newcastle win the game? I made this argument against Wolves last week when I gave Isak the 3 stars, and my justification was, without Alexander Isak, they might not get that win. He is the difference maker, and when you've got a player in that game getting 2 goals and an assist, how can you not give him star marks when he probably wasn't even at his best? Well, today he probably actually played better. Some of the dribbles, it's like the top part of his body doesn't move, yet his feet do, and it just leaves defenders stationary, how he dances away from players. And Newcastle are so lucky to have him. You know, you guys might be coming back and shouting, well, he's lucky to have Newcastle. At the moment, they both are. He's got those players around him who are supplying him. He looks happy. His goals can take Newcastle back into the Champions League. If they do, there's every chance he stays. I said to the guys on the flight down this morning, might not want to hear this, but if Newcastle don't make the Champions League this season, I would expect Isak to go off being consistent with that in terms of message and information from elsewhere, and my own opinion as well. But right now, he's scoring goals. He's playing fantastically well. Newcastle are headed back for that top 4, perhaps even top 5, given the coefficient. So Isak, the 2 stars, and the 3, Sandro Tonali. Eddie made a real point afterwards. He was asked a question about Sandro, and he thanked the questioner. And so I'm glad you've mentioned him today, because yes, while the goal will get the headline, and what a lovely goal it was, apart from that, he's doing everything and more, Eddie said, that they are currently asking of him. And he, for me, is the one who has changed this season around, going from be it the 8 or on the bench into the 6. That is coincided, and it is no coincidence, with Newcastle's turnaround in form, the 10 wins and 11 matches. He's just magnificent. He really is. And I want to find better words than just superlatives. I want to actually describe what he's doing. Well, what is he doing? Yeah, thank you for that. What is he doing? Well, everything what's over his shoulder, he's reading it, he's snuffing out, he's arriving there, and he's doing it without any great big fanfare either, but going forward as well. And today it wasn't necessarily his best in terms of that. We didn't really see those threaded through balls that got Isak and Gordon away in the channels, but nonetheless, when it comes to him in the midfield, he never wastes a pass. And today I thought was better, and what was best about him was that aggression and the tackles and just the little quick feet. There was one in front of the dugout where he stamps on the ball, he wins the ball, goes through his man, and then does the little double touch to get away from another Southampton player right in front of the dugout, right in front of the press box. And a colleague who covers Southampton just turned to me and just said, "Wow." I said, "Yeah, that's what he's like. That's the level he is at every week now. It's the best he's played." This goes without saying, it's the best he's played since he joined Newcastle. I would argue that's got to be the best he has played in his career. He is just the man at the heart of everything Newcastle now, you know, actually literally given where he plays on the pitch and metaphorically as well. Today, wasn't his best in Newcastle? I don't know, but it was right up there, and that is why he is right up there on the podium with another 3 stars, Sandro Tonali. Right, well, that's enough for now, guys. Little newsy items to clear up. Bruno came off in the second half there. Didn't look necessarily too pleased to be coming off. Eddie Howe confirmed that afterwards. He wanted to stay on, but he has been suffering with a little bit of illness this week. So best to take him off, and why not take Isak off at the same time as well, you know, conserve that energy. It's a big period coming up, a really winnable one at home to Fulham next weekend, followed by that visit of Arsenal in the Cup. So everything is back on track now, like we thought it would be. Miguel Almiron, will he still be here for those games? Well, a deal has been in place with Atlanta now for the best part of 10 days, to my knowledge. We're just waiting for the personal terms and everything else to be agreed. There was a moment afterwards where you guys were serenading him. Eddie pushed him to the front. He's just said to us downstairs there, the manager, that it wasn't necessarily goodbye. It was just an instinctive, impromptu, you go and, you know, enjoy that applause. They're singing your name. So more news is awaited on that front. I do still believe it'll happen. I do believe Almiron is going to go, but a couple of little last blocks have got to fall into place. Nick Pope, he was back on the bench today, sub unused, of course. Martin Dubravka rightly keeps his place in goal, but now they've got that little bit of competition. That's a good thing. Callum Wilson's going to come back in early in February. Harvey Barnes by the middle of February. Allied to that, they've got to keep players fit, but once they've got that depth, and I think they need it, I think they need that competition. Well, Newcastle could be in a really healthy place going forward in this, the last second half, last third of the season. And this today was an important day just to get them back to winning ways. And we always thought it would be, but they've come here and they've done it, and they've done it like the good team and the good players that they are. So yeah, guys, a little last scan of St Mary's here. Please hit like, comment, subscribe. What do you think about the Merit Stars? Did I get it wrong? Would you reverse them? Would you put somebody else in there? Was Bruno Guimaraes unlucky not to have him mentioned? Joe Linton put himself about as well. Tino Livramento, I thought, had a good second half, really drove Newcastle forward. Lewis Hall showed a little bit of quality as well. So there you go, I've mentioned most of them. You mentioned them below the line too. Hit like, subscribe, everything else. I love the interaction, and I'll see you again at the back end of the week when we'll be looking ahead to Fulham. Take care. If you are flying back up Newcastle train, it's not great getting down here. I know my flight was okay this morning, looks a little bit bumpy tomorrow, but yeah, if you are about, I had a really good chat with some guys on the plane today. Please do say hello. I love the interaction, all of it is fantastic. And today was good too on the pitch. Okay, see you soon. Bye-bye.